ChoralEd. Hello, fellow choral directors. I'm Micah Bland, and welcome to episode 19 of ChoralEd. This episode marks another milestone for ChoralEd, as this is our 1-year anniversary. A big thank you to all those who have supported us so far by watching. And if you are just joining us, I hope you would take a moment to hit that like and subscribe button and join us on this journey of choral music education. With this episode, we begin a brand new series on sight reading. And as many of you know, and hopefully all of you know, music literacy is such an important aspect of what we do as music educators and teaching our students to read music. And so because of this, we're going to spend several months and episodes on this topic of sight reading. We have about 5 or 6 excellent guests lined up to talk about their expertise of sight reading in various methods. And so I hope you look forward to that. But with today's episode, I want to kind of lay some groundwork of our future topics. And I want to talk today a little bit about the different sight reading methods for both pitch and rhythm. As you can see from this slide, there are several methods you can use when implementing sight reading in the classroom. Whatever method you choose, though, it's important that you align your method with the other schools in your district, so they're not changing as they go from school to school, as well as you maintain the same method throughout their entire development as best you can. In my experience, I went from Moveable Do in elementary school and middle school to numbers for the first 2 years of my high school career, but then the district said everybody in our district has to use Moveable Do. And so I had to change back to Moveable Do. And so I was a good sight reader, but I kind of lost some development in that solfege, especially chromatic notes, during those 2 years. And so switching back was a little bit of a challenge for me, having done numbers for a little while. But again, no matter what you pick, it's important to maintain that method throughout a student's development. Talking now about rhythm, there are a few methods for rhythmic reading, and I strongly encourage you teachers to have students count rhythms very often. We as singers are notorious for not being good rhythm counters. There's a few methods to use. The first are replacement syllables. There's things like ta, ta, ti, ti, ta. There's also 1 E and a 2 E and a. That's my preferred method. I think it's the most comprehensive. You can do any rhythm with 1 E and a 2 E and a. There's also mnemonic, where you, in a way, replace with words things like apple, apple, app for 8th notes or 16th notes, watermelon, 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 using words as a mnemonic device. There are methods for keeping the pulse and counting that I want to share with you. The first is the tap pulse. We're tapping our shoulder, and I cross the arm for a reason. The left, if you didn't know this, the left side of your brain controls the right side of your body, and the right side of your brain controls the left side of your body. And so when you cross the arm, you are delivering the pulse with your left brain, and you're receiving the pulse with your right brain because you're crossing the arm. I prefer the tap compared to a slap on the leg or a snap. I don't want the audible slapping going on because then they rush, people are off, so I want the silent pulse. There's another method that's great for younger students, especially middle school and younger, and that is what I call up-downs, and it goes like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. This method works for quarter note time signatures, right? Doesn't really work for 8th note time signatures, 6/8, 9/8. But it keeps track of what beat they're on. That's often a problem for students. What beat am I on? What's the next number? 3, 4, which one are we on? And so every time you go down the beat, 1, 2, 3, 4. Great method. There's also not only the pulse, the downbeat, there's the upbeat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Great method for subdivision. This is also a great tool for the teacher to visually assess who is on or off the rhythmic value or the tempo. They can easily see. There's one more thing about this method I need to share, and that is how do you do held notes, because there's a different approach for that. And the held notes go out. For example, a whole note. 1. If you can see, I'm doing 2 silent, 2, 3, 4. And this helps me keep track of, this would be lower for the students. I'm doing it for the camera, right? This helps keep track of what beat am I on and pulsing those subdivisions and those silent held notes. Let's do 2 half notes. 1, 3. So I know 3 was coming next. So I did 2 out here. Oh, next is 3. I know where I am. It's a great method to keep track of where we are rhythmically in the tempo, in the meter. Talking now about pitch, there are 3 very popular methods. They are movable do, fixed do, and numbers. When it comes to the solfege, I strongly encourage you to use hand signs for this kinesthetic association, as well as there's the pulse of the beat. Do, do, re, mi. We get the pulse going, because we can't, we're not going to tap or we're going to do our hands out here. We can't do that. There's also a great method for the pitch ladder, where the hand signs ascend or descend based on the pitch. So do is down here at the belly button, re, mi, fa is here below the chest, so is at the shoulders, la, ti, and do is above the head. So we have this association with ascending and descending pitch, another great method to implement alongside the hand signs. But talking now about the 3 different approaches, and each one has its own advantages and disadvantages. And as you are assessing which one to pick, or you currently use one of these methods, it's important to know where are the pitfalls in that method, and how can I help students accommodate for those challenges musically. So the first is movable do. This is the most, I think, balanced sight reading approach, and so that's why it's the most popular, because the balance between the advantages and disadvantages is fairly well balanced here. The advantages are that it's a moderately quick method to learn. And I say moderately quick because numbers is the fastest to learn, and fixed do is the slowest. But the challenge for students is, if you ever worked with beginning students on sight reading, you'll know that understanding what syllable comes next is a hard task. It takes them a while to understand do, re, mi, fa, so, the order. If you have any skips, they get even more confused. Having them write in the solfege or anything like that, a student will go, okay, that's do, what's above do? There's one above, and they have to look at the wall. You might have that wall of solfege up. Most schools do, most choirs do. And they'd look up and go, oh, re's next, right? Okay, what's above that? Mi. It takes them a little time to understand that sequence. And so it's not the fastest, but it's not the slowest to learn and become proficient. Another great advantage is that the interval recognition is always consistent. Do, mi does not change, right? Do, mi. That third is always the same. The fourth is always the same. Do, fa, excuse me. Shouldn't sing the wrong syllable or sing the wrong note. It's also easy to transition to a la-based minor, right? To transition to minor in that way, la to la. And students also have a better sense of the key center, of understanding where is do. Do, they can always come back to do. And most of these advantages are in comparison to fixed do, which has some negatives in these areas, right? The disadvantages, and some people might be surprised, there are disadvantages to movable do. It's a slightly slower solfege recognition speed. Why is this? Well, compare this to fixed do, where C is always do. That space or that line is always fa, always so, right? That does not change. And so the speed is right there. That's so. I know exactly what solfege that is. When you have movable do, there's a delay in understanding, okay, here's a leap, how far is that? Oh, that's do to so, right? And they have to figure that out. So there is a slight delay there. There's also a very significant lack of key signature knowledge, that when students physically have to sing the key signature in fixed do, the students in Moveable Do have no real concept of key signatures. And this is a big issue when they want to become music majors and they're in theory class and they have no concept of key signatures compared to their instrumental majors who have to play the sharp or flat in the key signature, right? So that is a big deficit. While I'm on this topic, I strongly encourage you to teach your students the note names, right? And reinforce those note names. And this is because another big significant issue with Moveable Do and singers is that we teach them solfege. And that does not translate into note names. And when you come to theory, and those music students come to theory, and they have to understand triads and intervals, and they have to recognize the note name like that, they are way too far behind with note names, right, compared to instrumental students or other students who understand note names already. So please teach your students note names early on. We also have fixed do, and there are several advantages to this. Some people might be surprised by that. It is a faster recognition speed. Like I said, that liner space is always so, always fa, always mi. It does not change. It also promotes relative pitch, that they understand there's fa, there's do, whatever it may be, right? I don't have perfect pitch, and I'd be surprised if that. Ah, look at that. I am impressed with myself. I had no idea. Well, applause. I should have some applause there. I should add in some applause in the edit. All right. There's also a great sense of understanding of key signatures, right? So these are kind of opposite of Moveable Do in many ways, right? They have the advantages and disadvantages are opposite of each other. That they physically have to sing that sharp or flat. And so they understand the key signature. This is a great advantage when it comes to reading your repertoire music. Now, why is that? Sometimes composers, and many times composers, do not change the key signature, but they notate it with sharps or flats. And so they change the key with sharps or flats in the music, but don't change the key signature. Very common in classical music, very common in more current music as well. Moveable Do individuals are lost when you get to this point. And so our goal for sight reading is not to prepare them for the contest, but prepare them to read any musical material they have. That is, any of our repertoire music. Moveable Do people are lost when the key changes with sharps and flats in the music itself. Fixed Do people, no issue at all, right? They are good to go. The disadvantages, though, and these are pretty significant for fixed Do in my opinion, which is why many people don't go this route. It takes a long time to become proficient because you're singing in keys, right? Re, mi, fi, sol, la, whatever it is, D major, right? Or it is always changing, right? It's not always do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. It could be re, mi, fi, or sol, la, ti, do, re, mi, fi, so, right? For the G major scale, I have to really think about that one. Pretty difficult, right? The same goes with the interval recognition is minimized. Do to mi, the third, is also re to fi, mi to si, fa to la. Those are all thirds, right? And as the key changes, that interval also, well, the interval stays the same, but the solfege changes. And so understanding that and learning that takes some time. And the last one, I think the most significant concern is that what do you do when a student from outside your school or outside your district moves to your town and has to learn fixed Do? They come from a Moveable Do approach and they have to learn fixed Do. Because it takes so long to become proficient, they are really struggling, right? The fixed toe people are, I don't want to say outcasts, but they are a small group of individuals in at least America. In Europe, fixed toe is way more popular, but they have a hard time with students coming into their district or moving schools if they're using fixed toe, because trying to train them on fixed toe takes a while. Takes a while to. All right, numbers. Numbers, surprisingly, is the easiest to learn. And so you say, well, why aren't we using numbers? Well, there's one significant drawback to numbers. Very easy to learn. I could teach students in one day how to read numbers. Why? Because it's counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's the order? 1, 2, 3, 4, right? We know the order. Okay, well, here's 1. 1 note up is 2, 3, 4, 5. And we have a skip. 1, 2, we just count up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 to 5, right? It's a very fastish recognition speed that they simply count up or down, right? Compared to do, re, mi, fa, right? They have to go through the order and understand that. Students, of course, get faster at that, but the recognition speed is moderately fast because we're simply counting. And it's also easier to understand the harmonic structure, that we start to understand 1 chords, 5 chords. There are inversions, of course, and so we have to deal with that. But using numerals, there's a better understanding of harmonic progression and harmonic movement. There are 2 disadvantages. The most concerning is, what do you do with chromatic notes? Any accidentals? As I said, I did numbers for 2 years in high school, and so I went to an all-state camp, and we were practice sight reading, and the leader of our section was a teacher I had at middle school, and they were now at the high school, at a different high school, and they knew I did numbers, and so they asked me to sight read. And so then afterwards, one of the students went, so what do you do with chromatic notes? And I said, duh, sing higher, right? Sing lower, duh, But that's an issue. 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4. 3, 3, 4. So 3 and 4 should be the same. 3 sharp and 4 should be the same number. Sorry, saying that wrong. So people don't write in and say I was wrong. Okay. But how do you deal with chromatic notes, right? And especially when you have a leap, or you're changing keys within the music, notated key change, how do you deal with that? And that is a very significant issue. Very significant issue. Yes, it is the easiest to learn. If I were teaching adults, and I'd use numbers probably. If you're teaching at a college and you want to teach them sight reading quickly, I'd use numbers. But when it comes to chromatic notes, a very, very significant issue to deal with. There's also, and it's a very minor issue because it's easily fixed, but you need to be aware of this, that you change the rhythm on the syllable 7. There's 2 syllables in the word 7. So if I were to sing 1, 7, well, now I've changed the rhythm. 1, 7, 1, 7, 6, 1, 7, 1, 7, or you can go 1, T, 6, 5, 4, change it to T. Change it to something different, right? If I were a judge and I heard you sing 7 in a contest, those are all wrong rhythms, right? That is incorrect. That is not what the rhythm is for that note. So just be aware of that challenge. I hope you found this discussion of these methods helpful to you, that as you are deciding what method to use, or maybe you currently use one of these methods, that you better understand how to best adjust and help your students with these deficiencies in these various methods. I hope that helps you as you continue to teach. And as always, thanks for watching, and I hope you continue to inspire the future leaders of our world through this wonderful gift we call music. Thanks.